here through the end and coming with so much downloads that we've had this weekend. And I'm sure you're going to have a lot of stuff to ponder over the next couple of days, weeks, or months about what we've all learned here today. So I just want to thank each one of you and thank yourself too for doing this, because yay for all of you. Really, really stoked. And the connection that we're all been making has just been beautiful, especially the authentic relating part when we got to drop in with one another was beautiful. So like I said, the first half of this presentation is I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's taking place with tiny homes, particularly here in Colorado, a little bit about the business that I own, and then we're going to go outside and get into grounding ourselves and speaking a little bit more. So the name of my business is Tiny Temples, Honor Thy Temple. A lot of people call them tiny homes, but a home is a temple. It's where you go to rest yourself, to be connected to spirits. So what we're building isn't just square homes. It's more of a sanctuary. So some of the stuff that you'll see here about tiny homes, you'll realize this is what the industry is coming into right now. So 68% of tiny home people don't have to deal with mortgages. So that's amazing. 55% of tiny home people have more savings in their bank account than the average American. Wow. You don't have to be in debt. You actually have money. That's pretty impressive. The average cost to build a tiny home is $23. That's actually changed. We're looking more like $27 now with the cost of goods and services. And that's if you're building on your own. And if you have community help, you could actually lower that down to probably even $20,000 to build yourself a tiny home. And then the average cost of a home is, and this is low end, we're just talking about housing in LA, Santa Fe, and Boulder, which is over $500,000. But national average, this I think was back in 2019, was $272, and then you add the interest of $209 at 4.2% interest for a 30-year. You're paying almost $500,000 for a home. So you're almost doubling the cost of a home with the loan through these banks. And also, if anyone knows about how the banking systems work, if you don't make a lot of money, you actually pay more interest. So people that are more on the lower class and middle class will pay about 4.25. Now, if you're making over $500,000 a year, you're going to be paying 3%. And so this is just how the system's currently set up. So it's not really set up for people who are wanting to get into a home or be able to create their own sanctuary, their own rooted system. It's just a difficult thing to get into. And then 89% of tiny home owners have less credit card debt than the average American, with 65% tiny home people having zero to no debt. So that's huge. Debt-free since '93. So a little bit different about tiny homes and ADUs. ADUs is usually something that we legalize in a lot of counties. This is a dwelling that is not on wheels. So this is a permanent structure that are built in the backyard. Tiny homes could also be ADUs. But they need to be put onto a foundation. So they make you pour a foundation, take the wheels off, and then you're literally removing the mobile aspect of it. And what I think is really important about tiny home movement is the fact that we're in a time where, what are we seeing a lot more of since the Kali Yuga? Fires. We're having fires. We're having land being burnt. We're having houses being burnt down. So if you own a tiny home and there's a fire in your area, guess what you get to do? You actually get to move it. You get to drive it away and be like, I'm leaving this fire and I'm going to go hang out with a bunch of people in tiny homes and we're just going to be by a lake. So it almost gives you the same thing as an RV. The other amazing thing, too, is when there is fire in an area, if we had a bunch of tiny homes, we can pull them into that area. We can start giving people homes instantly instead of just having FEMA come in, giving you temporary places to live, and then pulling out, and then there you are again with nothing, just waiting for your check to come in, hoping that you can figure out if you can not sleep in your car anymore. So the tiny home movement not only provides housing on crisis, but it also allows to save you during these crisis times as well, which is really awesome. These are all the pictures in here are tiny homes or structures that we've built. This one here on the right is actually built at Elk Run. This is a timber frame that we did, and the roof system, you can see the hole over here, actually will have a living roof on top of this, and we will have water catchment that comes out and drains, and then that will help feed the sheep that are, so this is their sheep barn that they have on the property. Really awesome structure. So some of the pros and cons about tiny home. So most farms in the United States, so first off, their tiny homes are currently considered RVs because they haven't had a way to classify them. So most farms in the United States, if you have year-round like sheep or chickens and are like farmland that you have to be taken care of, you're only actually allowed to live in there for 180 days, even if you have year-round. So this is the case in most places in Colorado, unless you have over 35 acres. There's some changes for that and multi-zoning uses. So there's a lot of red tape you have to go through if you want to move that. Throws, that's tiny home on wheels, are considered RVs. So you're limited to what RVs can do. Most counties don't even allow tiny homes. They just don't allow them because there's no regulations. At least with RVs, there's regulations on how they're built. So they're like, okay, we know the electrical is good. We know the plumbing because it's gone through a manufacturer that's certified. Tiny homes, I could just build that in my backyard and be like, hey, I have a tiny home and I want to hook it up to your power. Is that okay? You know, and it's almost impossible to get a mortgage for tiny homes as well. I'm actually talking with this person who helped start some banks about doing what we're calling wheel estate. So wheel estate is a low interest mortgage for tiny homes that people want to get tiny homes where you can pay 2% and be paying like $400 or $500 a month and be in a tiny home. So these are things that are going to start opening up as we start bringing in regulations for them. And then the pros is, you know, you kind of fly under the radar, especially if you just like leave your vehicle hooked up to your tiny home. It's considered an RV. It's like, I'm actually still mobile. So you're kind of like getting away with stuff if they come to try to harass you. And then throws are also, they're built to last. An RV, you're looking maybe 10 years before you start really getting it to break down. And it just actually is built with really poor materials that are going into landfills and going into the waste, so not very sustainable whatsoever. The nomadic lifestyle, I spoke to that a little bit, but it also allows you to go to different communities, different places in the world. You can park them at RV parks. You could be more mobile in the way you choose to live and where you decide to go, at least within the continental. So, yeah, and tiny homes cost less to build than an average home. Yeah.
So you said it costs about $23,000 if you make it your own. How about if someone builds it for you?
So there are some companies out there that are doing pretty well. Like you can get a tiny home, a 20-foot tiny home for $23,000 from a place called Holy Ground Real Estate in Denver. And I actually bought my frame and exterior from them, and I'm doing all the interior myself because I just don't have the time to do that, running two businesses actually right now. So, and I was able to pick that up for $13,000, and I could build it out myself. So you can get one for, you know, $20,000.
Like if someone builds it, it's all built, ready to go. So for about that price?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Colorado currently is leading the way when it comes to tiny homes. We have the most amount of tiny home manufacturers in the United States. And Eric Fries is, he's the governor of Larimer County. The mayor of Larimer County. And he's been pushing something. So you'll see here on the bottom, that he feels the best long-term plan would be these new systems for tiny homes to include grade A new communities for tiny homes. So he's actually in his bill he wrote that he wants to build a tiny home community. So now that this bill has been passed, it's passed now, which is awesome, but it won't be fully implemented until July 1st of 2023. At that point, we'll have to live up to regulations in there. And then you see here on the left what has actually been going on with people even living here as the prices go up. So, people who are making under $45,000 can't even afford without spending 30% of their income just to rent in here. So this is the housing crisis that is taking place everywhere. As places that are desirable to live, prices go up, and people who are unable to, make over $50,000 or $100,000 a year are basically having to move somewhere else where they don't pay as well, and then you're actually getting paid less. So there's kind of, our system's really set up where they only help you out to a certain level, and then after that they actually take away any government helping or funding, so it makes it difficult to get ahead, to advance. It's really good at sustaining you where you're at, is how our government economy is set up. So tiny homes are going to be set up as ADUs, come into backyards, and we'll be able to lower cost of housing. Like he was speaking about, like turning these multi-bedroom houses into multi-units. So we're essentially allowing similar by putting ADUs in backyards, allowing tiny homes to come in, which is going to be amazing. So lower the cost a little bit and give more homes for people and affordable housing, which is awesome. So you guys could read. I'm not going to read through all of it. I just threw this together while in like 1 hour. So I just was like, okay, I'm going to throw together a little thing. Bloom actually inspired me. So this is the act. This is the bill. It's the 22-1242. So you can see here that they're adding tiny homes, which is amazing, and these are some of the key major points that they're putting in the standards to establish how we can regulate tiny homes. So I'm not going to read through all of it, but if you guys want to see, I think some of the key ones is the tiny home inspection before July 1st, 2023. So anything you're building before then, you don't have to have a permit to build. So this is a great time to build a tiny home if you've ever thought about building one. Get started on it now. Even if you build your frame before then, or get your frame before then, you can say it was started before this date. And then you may not have to have the county, tell you that it has to be done a certain way. So you get to do it your own way. You don't have to have inspectors come in, and so that's really awesome. And then the other cool thing too is a lot of tiny homes are set up with compost and toilets, and those would be grandfathered in. So that's really cool. So you won't have to hook up to sewer. Larimer County, they currently do have things about tiny homes, so you do have to be hooked up to sewer, so even if you came in with one, but some other counties will allow the compost and toilets to come in as long as they have fans. Current law. Yeah.
I have a question. Is that bill for the state of Colorado?
Yes, this is for the whole state of Colorado.
Cool.
Yeah. So there's certain manufacturer exemptions. So this bill, by adding tiny homes that are classified as residential improvements for the purpose of property tax, which means the landowner will pay a lower residential tax rate on lands that have a tiny home. What? That is awesome. Put a tiny home on your property and you get a tax cut? Yes, that is a great incentive right there. So I thought that was a really key point in there that I wanted to point out in the bill. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about my business and how things are done differently. So before we go on to this, is there anyone that wants to ask any questions about the current laws or anything, or about regulations with that?
I was just wondering about the composting toilet, because like in Paonia, there is no building codes, but you cannot have a composting toilet unless it is an approved Sunny John.
That's a company, Sunny John?
Sunny John is a company,
Okay, well,
That
there's
you
other
only
companies
if
out
you-
there that are been approved
like
by
FDA approved. or
FDA
whatever.
approved.
Yeah.
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 Related to someone there. Did someone else have? I'm gonna save my.
Cool. Yeah, so build your tiny home. Is there any more?
Talked to someone about land trusts. There are some that exist not just on open land, but in cities. I don't know if you know anything about how the laws work.
What laws?
Land trusts, and some people connect that with accessory dwelling units.
Really depends on the county that you're in and what they allow. As tiny homes will be used as ADUs, it's just per county and what they allow. So you're going to have to work with your public officials to see what's going to work for your land trust that you're setting up and what they allow in that region. Yeah. Okay, so this is the juicy stuff. This is the stuff I love talking about here. Who here has worked in building industry? Yeah. So you know it's very masculine. This is set up in a way where it's like, show up to work, get your hammer and nails, and we're going to build some stuff. And it's not very conducive to the flow of life or even tapped into the feminine. We literally take natural, beautiful trees and we cut them square so we can put them in houses. So we're literally doing work so we can do work. All right? Just kind of ridiculous. I feel like it's very similar to like growing cows so we can eat food, and like it's like using water to use water. It doesn't make sense. So with the way that we do things is we're a natural building company. So we use live edge wood. We use natural resources in the area. We go to our local, I think I say it on the bottom here, local materials. We go to local mills and we're like, hey, what scraps do you have left? Like, where's the cheaper wood? Like, maybe there's pallets that want to be used and we could put those in your bathroom and make this like really cool bathroom that, you know, doesn't look like it's stick and mortar cut square, and it has like, you know, has life to it. It's been used. It has a story. And every piece of wood has a story. Every tree has a story of like what it went through in life and like what wind made it blow and why the branch broke and where's its cuts and bruises that are like exemplified through artistic expression. So I think that's really important. That's something we love to bring to the surface in our builds. So in our business, in the morning, we drop into a ceremony. Everyone comes together and we sit down, usually do hape, and go into a guided meditation, and we speak what's called as pies. So how you feeling physically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. And we ask this to all our employees, and this is paid. You come and you're paid for your check-ins in the morning. And we see where people are at and we meet them where they're at. We're not just like, let's just go to work. It's like, where are you at? And if, you know, I came to work feeling emotional, I don't want to put that emotional drain into the build, because I feel like our homes are coming to life. We invoke the spirit of what we're building. So when I build a home for somebody, I'll bring you in, whether on Zoom or in person, and we have a ceremony. We write affirmations on the walls, we burn kapal and sage and set intentions, and we put deities inside of the walls that eventually will be covered up, but are like, they're living in there. So the energy that we collectively come into alignment with one another is important. So that's the check-ins. And then it's like, what the support system part I really love is like, what do you feel inspired to do today? Like if I came to work and I'm like, oh, I'm not feeling like doing electrical, like I want to do something more artistic, but like, do you want to build like the front end dragon head of it? And I'm like, yeah. And so like get out some things and like trace them cool. And then I build these amazing arch things that look like a dragon's head. And we're currently building a tiny home for Saoirse. She's outside, called the Dragon. So this is what I'm really inspired by right now, a dragon. And we invoke this in ourselves. And while we're working, we invoke the clients. Like, what is the client's energy? What do you feel when you interact with your client? And how can we bring that and we call their names into our circles? We'll say our clients' names like as their spirit is there. So really thing, and this is building a new culture. This is building a new culture of how we connect and build. So releasing the old paradigm of building and bringing in a way where we're actually connected to one another, connected to the materials, and connected to the actual invocation of what's wanting to be built. I like to quote Bob Ross, who says, "Happy little accidents." You know, and that's as we're going along, like sometimes an accident becomes a happy little accident, gives you an opportunity to create something artistic. And how can you connect this? Maybe a window is crooked and we're like, okay, well, let's make it like let's exemplify the crookedness of the window. You know, stuff like that doesn't actually really happen, but we still bring the artistic things because we want everyone, all of you are builders. All of you have the ability to build. You know, like look at what they did here with this yurt. Like some people did not have building skills, but they showed up and they put in their time and energy because they feel like they're encouraged. Instead of like, you don't know enough, you can't help. It's like, no, we encourage you to come. Like everyone can build. Like put in your time, put in your energy. We want whatever you have to offer. And if it's not perfect, we love your imperfections. And those imperfections are stories. And those stories go into lineages. And those lineages become the invocations of the space that we're in and how we cultivate each other. So yeah. So a little bit about the homes is, I look at the front door as a portal to your soul. So I don't build square doors. It's square doors, they're just square. And actually chi energy gets caught in corners. So if you know anything about chi energy, when I go around and sage a house, I'm actually pulling the energy behind the areas that things are sitting all the time and moving that energy. So let's bring fluidity and flow to your portal, your front door, and how you invite people into your soul home. Feels really important. We get a lot of our inspiration from the womb, the first place of comfort for our nervous system. So we curve walls and we bring dimension and flow to things and get rid of the squareness to it. Corners actually trigger our nervous system. So when you have a room that's smooth corners, it actually calms you down. And we don't even know, because we've been in so many square houses, that we don't even realize we're triggered. And if you're in a really square house, if you really pay attention, you'll notice that you're breathing more shallow because your nervous system is slightly triggered on a subconscious level. So when we bring that conscious awareness to it, you'll be like, oh, wow, I'm breathing shallow. In here, we have flow. We have color. We have beauty. So our nervous systems are a lot more chill just in this space that we're sitting in. And then does your house inspire you? Do you feel inspired to be more of who you want to be, to bring out into the world what you want to bring out into the world? Do you feel inspired to lay in bed and just read books and be creative, be artistic for yourself, your own artistic expression? I love that, for that feels like the aspect of like Tantra, which is like cultivating that energy from those lower chakras up into the third eye of creativity. So that's something I really love about the home building. And then, is it healing? Is it a place that's healing you, that's holding you, that's allowing you to move this energy and transmute what wants to be seen and released? So those are really important things for what we do into houses. Cool. Any questions before I move on? Yeah.
Wondering if you have any guidance for, if you find yourself living in a very square place, if there's anything that can be done to augment the corners to create better chi flow or have it not trigger your nervous system.
Tapestries. Put tapestries in the corners, pin them, kind of roll them around a little bit. That can really help. Yeah. I'm sure you can get creative and find other things too.
I took a spiritual architecture workshop, and one of the things that he said is super important to do is just take a piece of cardboard. It's best if it's like precisely the golden mean arch and stuff, but it doesn't really matter. As long as you, in every window, you tape a piece of cardboard that just cuts the corner out so that when the light comes in, it's coming in at an angle, or, it's not sharp like that. The other thing that he says to do is to, where it's like at the tops and the bottoms, and even if it's just any kind of thing to break that line so that the energy can move like that.
Yeah, those are all good, amazing things to bring into it.
One more comment about the spiritual architecture. So everything has consciousness, whether you believe it or not. And so one of the things that he said is super important if you want to have joy and peace in your home is to introduce materials to each other. And, just say, here's wood, here's laminate flooring, or whatever it is, and you just introduce and acknowledge that, and you kind of tell it like, hey, we're all a happy family, we're going to get along, don't worry, I'm taking care of you all. And then the other thing is, like with wood, that that particle board is super unhappy wood because it's all chopped up. That wood wants to be, it's hard to tell whether the wood, which side was up or down, but even just having wood going like that makes the wood much more happy than if it's like that, because that's not like its natural equilibrium.
Yeah, and recycled materials too. I didn't mention we use recycled denim in all of our tiny homes, so we're not using toxic materials, which is, I think, really important, as well as like, what is the ecological impact of your home over a 100-year period breaking down? What is it going to do when it decays back into the earth, and what are you putting back into the earth? So yeah, mindful of the materials that we're using.
So we have like a bus that is partially converted that we kind of acquired. It has some electrical issues, and it has some plumbing lines already run. But other than that, it's pretty beautiful on the inside already. Do you do things like helping people finish their conversions and stuff like that? Or what do you think the best way to go about that? Because I have no skills or knowledge on that right now. And I'm currently relying on people where I live now, but we're thinking about maybe bringing it up to the Front Range area.
Yeah, so depending on how built out it is, when we build something, just like any structure, the base needs to be solid, and that's the hidden things behind the walls, the electrical and plumbing. So to have your electrical and plumbing done really well before the walls put up, it saves money in the future if there is, because there won't be issues if it's done correctly. So if issues are occurring, it becomes a little more expensive because there's troubleshooting that needs to take place. Like, you need to figure out where the lines are because I can't see them. They're hidden behind walls. So that's a little more difficult, but I'm always down to just take a look and hook up some wires and be like, all right, this goes here and it looks like this is that. I've troubleshooted some people's vans and school buses in particularly in like 15 minutes and can at least give an idea of what needs to be done. Personally, doing that work is not the most inspiring to me because I'm ripping stuff apart and like trying to fix it. So we do that. It really depends on like who's needing it. If it's like someone who really needs it, we're like, yeah, come on in and we'll just do it for like $20 an hour and help you out. So that's something that we're also wanting to get to, is how can we make this more affordable? And this is we've only been in business for a year, and our business is in debt, and now we owe money to the government. So like first year businesses, it's difficult to turn a profit. But we build more high-end houses, and we're tying NFTs to our houses as well, with QR codes that we'll put on the door. So we're working in these Web3s and different ways of decentralized currency to find other ways to bring that financial support to our ecosystem, so we're able to support more. I love that saying, put on your mask before you help someone else put on their mask. So we're looking to get there, and we still do that. It's just, it's really case by case. So.
Sorry, you just inspired me to mention, there's so much content that's amazing this weekend, and there's stuff we didn't get to, like the in-person walking tour, and you inspired me to point out for people, since we didn't do the tour, just about what's going on here. Like, we're currently sitting in an upcycled yurt. Everything here is repurposed. Even, I mean, there's some things we had to get, but even like the screws, which isn't hard to believe, even like the screws in the floor we got with the, like, we literally took the screws out, saved them, took the floor up, took the stone with us, and then we went online to repurposed materials website and got roofing pavers, because our engineer friend Reb, who put in the solar, told us, hey, so to put your base under your yurt on the ground, you're going to need, even if you don't build the deck and you save that for a stage, you're going to need like not just the concrete, but styrofoam as insulation, because the ground gets cold, especially with concrete. And we found roofing pavers with thick styrofoam attached to a crust of concrete, or ordered a bunch of giant pallets of those, cut them into shape for the whole base that we're sitting on. We're literally sitting on insulated concrete roofing pavers with styrofoam attached to them that were reused from some other construction site. So, and I mean, that whole deck is going to be the HeartFire Festival stage. It's the size of this yurt floor. It is round, so it can be turned into a contained, like, band shell. And it came 100% from Valley Soul. Sadhana just hooked us up when he needed to get rid of it for county reasons. So we moved, like, when Alfalfa's was closing down, we moved their stuff here. We moved Valley Soul to Sanctorum, so repurposing stuff. Yeah.
So the next part I want to get into, we can go two ways. One, the first thing I want us to do is to all, and I'll go through it before we get it, but I want to get like a consensus of what feels the best. So we could either go into sitting with ourselves for a minute and just feeling what it would feel like to own a tiny home and be able to move it to different eco-villages and have an affordable home, something that is like within reach for you, that you can really be in, and having an artistic temple, a place where your nervous system is chill. So we'll spend a minute doing that, and then we can go either or. We can turn to the person next to us and do interpersonal, just hear what they have to say. Like, if I lived in a home, I would feel this. I would have the ability to do that and do that. Or we can do more open style and just be like, wow, this makes me think that this is possible and that's possible. And curious, like, what are people feeling? They want more one-on-one personal stuff or more open discussion? We can do a vote. Since
Murmur, guys, murmurate.
Okay, so if we want to go more inner, like more personal with one-on-one with people, just put your hand up. So you're just like we did the authentic relating before. You're just gonna speak to that one person, drop in with them, and kind of like be like, this is basically like a manifestation. I want you to really feel that it's already happened, that you already own a tiny home, that is like something you get to go home to, or maybe it's parked right outside. Like, feel it. What does it smell like? So we're gonna drop into a little bit of that, and then either talk to one person and speak like, this is what it feels like to me, this is thing, or we can speak openly. So open discussion. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then just one-on-one. Okay, it looks like we're gonna do more of an open discussion. So beautiful, beautiful. I love this. This is the beautiful part about it's more like voting, not really consensus, but still. So, yeah, if everyone can just, I invite you to close your eyes. Just calm yourself down. Take some breaths with yourself. Get out of the mind and let it drop down into the heart. Feel what it would feel like to be in your own home. How does it smell? Now look around inside your home. What does it look like? Now step outside your home. Where are you parked? And where do you feel inspired to go? You can go anywhere. Where would you take this tiny home on wheels? Now just go back to the feeling of owning this home. This is yours, no debt. Outright, you belong it. It's yours. You have a great vehicle to tow it. You don't have to worry about. You have complete freedom. And then we'll come back to the space, take in what we just felt, what we've seen inside, and we'll open our eyes and be in connection with one another.
Padme, thank you for presenting your craft. I've been an RVer all my life. My visualization since I was 3 years old was to park in an RV. This was my first memory. An RV parked under the California redwoods and exploring up the coast, hugging those forests as far as they extend up north, and eventually traveling through Alaska as far out even into the Aleutians as possible, or north. And it's a wonderful visualization, but man, that trailer looks heavy.
Right?
I gotta ask you, now we're talking about materials. What's that fish weigh?
It weighs a little bit over 10,000 pounds, which is not that bad. It's not that bad. Structolite is a lightweight material, and that's what we use for the walls on the inside. So it's not as heavy as you would think. And the walls are 2x4 instead of 2x6 construction. So, yeah. And the whole frame is actually CNC'd. So we got that cut out by Stephen Newman. Yep. Who's, I guess, done some of the stuff here. Yeah. Amazing brother in our community.
Worldchangers organization, Stephen Newman Laser Cut.
Yeah.
Back in the day when he first started.
Yay, Stephen.
He produced my first album.
And will it do 70 down the highway?
Depends on what you're towing it with. Yeah. So let's yeah. So let's put our energy towards Morgan here, that he gets to travel the coast. He gets to hug those redwood trees. That his dream becomes his reality. And so it is, brother.
Yeah, thank you. This was lovely and very synchronistic for me. I'm building my bus as we speak. And I kind of just visualized myself in this bus finished. And like the smell part really stuck, was I felt the breeze coming through my windows, and it smelled like fresh air and just like a tint of incense. And it was very light feeling, as well as like appeal, like visually very light colors, but like warm. And when I imagined walking outside of it, I just saw, it kind of did the flickering thing like dreams do, where I saw the Badlands up in South Dakota. And then I saw the Grand Canyon, and then like Utah arches, and just all of these like desert areas to travel to. Yeah, and it just feels very freeing and liberating to always know that I have a place to lay my head, and it's wherever I want it to be, or wherever I want to be, you know. So yeah.
Beautiful. All right, let's put up our arms for our brother. This beautiful breeze coming into his windows, smelling that fresh air. Total freedom, traveling wherever he wants to go. Flying with the wind, listening to the spirit guides. Yeah, you have that. You have it.
Mine's less of a visualization, but I just wanted to share. I did get to stay in a tiny home in Boulder when I went to HeartFire Festival last year, and I stayed in this awesome tiny home in this organic farm, and it was such an awesome experience. I loved it. I loved, just waking up and having breakfast outside in this little table with little wind chimes overlooking the mountains and seeing the goats. And I was just like in heaven. I loved every bit of it. So ever since then, I'm like, I need some sort of tiny home, mobile home. I mean, I was totally comfortable. I could see myself living there with my child. Maybe not a large family, but the two of us could totally handle this. So it was a great experience. So yes, and I also did feel the incense in my tiny house, totally burning. It was great. So.
Yeah. All right, let's give her energy too. She didn't get much of visualization, but she got the experience. She knows what it feels like. And the beautiful part is you and your kids and feeling comfortable. So sending that love towards you, that ease and grace with your children. Thank you. Now, what are we doing on time? Is food done? Okay, cool. So let's get one more share. We good?
It's kind of a share, but I was wondering if you know our friend Sky McDonald and We Casa in Lyons.
Yes, I do know We Casa. I might be putting my tiny home there if I don't move to this property. But yeah, they allow people to park their tiny homes there, and they rent them out to you, and you could make a good profit off tiny homes that are built, and they're doing really great things with tiny homes. Lyons has been really, really great with tiny home community. There's also Simplicity out there that builds amazing, beautiful tiny homes, and they're getting more into the artistic design as well. So yeah, I really like it up there.
Awesome. Thank you, Padme. Let's give it up for Padme.
Yeah. So I want to do one last thing before closing.
Yes.
And Saoirse's here. She just bought a tiny home from us. And if it's okay, would you come here to the center? Who's been visualizing and dreaming about her tiny home for years. And she just purchased one from us. And she's really been dreaming into this, and it's becoming a reality for her. So I want to send some energy to her and what she and we're creating together, and how we can bring this home for her and her child and her community and what she's building. She's the one buying the dragon. So, yeah. So do you want to speak in a little bit about your vision with it for a minute? Then we'll all just send you that invocation of it.
Thank you. Yeah, I was actually bummed. I really wanted to make your talk, but I felt like my son needed some time away for a moment for us to kind of tune in together. And when I was at the river with him, I actually was saying a prayer about the house. So sweet. Yeah, I've been visualizing building a tiny house for the last 5 years, and it's kind of almost happened a few times. And in January this year, I just got the hit that it was going to happen, and then everything just kind of kept rolling, and it's happening, and Padme and Corwin are helping build it, or they're building it. I might help. And yeah, I've been working and living on farms for the last 5 years in Colorado, different farms, and I have before that in Louisiana. I've lived off and on of a friend's eco-village, and this New Year's I went and stayed in 2 of my friends' eco-villages, and I was there and I was just like, oh my gosh, why am I just not living like this all the time? Like, I'm so tired of paying $1,500 a month in rent and not living on the land and having a really small garden, and I'm traveling to farms to work, and I'm just so sick of this bustle, and I really just want to be living in an earth-centered way where I have a small shelter, but I get to go outside and live off the land. And so I just really anchored that vision in, and that's the vision I'm still anchoring in, and I feel super, super, super humbly blessed that it's working out right now, and there's still some mysterious aspects, and so I'm calling in just like, I've just really been trusting the process, and it's been super beautiful, and I feel like, you know, for me, I had to keep getting these little dream seeds planted until it could finally happen, and I really trust that Spirit knows where I'm supposed to fully land, and it's coming, and so I have a lot of opportunities for where I can park at, and I'm also feeling like there's some like mysterious perfect spot that hasn't quite revealed itself, but no matter what, I'm just like, yeah, I'm just trusting that. I'm really trusting that that's coming, and I feel like the land is coming, the land that wants me there, like really to ground in the prayer and like everything that I've been studying with permaculture and agriculture and regeneration and all of that, and the prayers with the water. So anyway, thanks for letting me talk for a minute, and thanks for calling me up here, and thanks for helping make my dream happen in such a beautiful way. I'm super, super grateful. Yay.
Yay.
And yeah, and thank you guys for what you're doing out here. It's really special, and I think, you know, all of us here are really working on creating that sustainable way of life, and it makes me, honestly, like, I'm kind of in and out with my son, and I've been really busy, but every time I step in here, I just feel such a heart connection in this room, and I really appreciate that. Like, there seems to just be this really beautiful sense of openness, and I feel like that comes from a shared dedication to living with the earth in a good way. So thank you for cultivating that space here for us. Yeah.
Thank you.
So let's send our energy to her on her new tiny home. Your dreams are becoming a reality. And that feels important to me. To end it like that, because I'm going to bring some interesting news. This is actually going to be my last build with this company. It is going to be her tiny home, and then I'm moving on to do my own thing. And I've already started my own business helping eco-villages and stuff, and I'm going to be doing van conversions. But this is going to be my last tiny home. I don't want to say it's going to be my last. This is the last that I'm working with the company. I love the company, and I'm still going to be, we're supporting each other. But yeah, change of dynamics and open up to the change of life. And thank you all so much. Really appreciate it. Blessings.
Woo!